All right, folks, special guest on the line. It is Black History Month, and our girl is giving us the time. I mean, who else better to talk to than the daughter of one of the greatest black men that ever lived, probably the greatest in my eyes, our girl, Laila Ali. Thanks for joining us.
Happy to be here. What's up, guys?
First off, what does Black History Month mean to you?
You know what? It just really means a time for reflection, on not just myself and my family, but all those that came before us, and it's like we want to not just think it has to be just for 1 month, but just like with Valentine's Day or birthday or, other holidays, it's the time to really focus on something. It doesn't mean it has to be the only time of the year, but, there's so much history obviously in my own family that's going to go down in history with my father. So with me, it's like teaching my children about Papa, and so many of the reasons why he's so great. And then just kind of, there's this DVD footage, a DVD you can buy called Hidden Figures, which had a lot of history on African Americans, black folks that you just won't learn in school. That's been compiled. So, I kind of start watching that again with my children. And that's pretty much it. And just really thinking about what my contribution is going to be, and I think a lot of us in our communities, what we need to do is really thinking about how we can build each other up, build wealth within our own community, and really start to focus.
Speaking of that, I just want to follow up on that. The fact that your father did so much for the culture and for his people at a time where it was so risky and so much to lose. To me, in my opinion, in today's age, there's so many athletes out there with so much power, and I feel like they don't take as much risks as your father did to stand up for injustices. I'm not saying nobody does it, but I would assume with the power that they have in this era that more would be done. Why is it that they're still lacking in that? These athletes, and I mean specifically athletes.
Yeah, me and my husband talk about this all the time. My husband, is an athlete. He played in the NFL for 13 years, and just amazing. He reminds me a lot of my father, but we talk about this all the time. Just because you're an athlete doesn't make you an amazing person when it comes to, being an activist, right? So we definitely want athletes and anyone who has any, public eye on them to help in some kind of way, but everyone doesn't have the same values and morals, and the same purpose in life, so a lot of times I think that what we do, unfortunately, now is people feel like they're doing something because they post something on social media. I hashtag this or I put this up, It gives people this false sense of they're doing something, it's put on a t-shirt, oh, we're supporting. What is that actually doing? It's not doing anything. And again, it could be the setup, making us feel like we're doing something when we're not actually making change. I think that, if you're gonna actually, do something as an athlete where you're not having to be like a Muhammad Ali and he's going to give up everything. He was ready to give it all up, right? Everything. And this is not about, it wasn't about money. It wasn't about an entourage or any of that. Just him as a man. He was a special individual. I don't think there could be anyone else like him. I mean, for a long time. That's why I have so much pride and I have so much love for my dad, because he was his own man. And a lot of these athletes, unfortunately, are in a situation, we're talking about the NFL and basketball, where they have so much to lose. They can't even speak up about the things that they are passionate about, because then they think like, oh man, I'm going to lose X, Y, and Z. And that's just people in general. People don't want to lose their job. They don't want to lose their livelihood. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate that we're in that situation where you can't speak out or speak up about something, or you're going to be canceled. You know what I mean? Right. So it's unfortunate. That's the world that we're living in, but, I just ask that athletes just be a positive role model, at least be a positive role model for the kids that are looking up to you, coming behind you. And I'm talking about when you act, my dogs. Yes. About the way you act on the court and off the court. If you can at least do that, I'd be happy with that.
Right. Amen. I mean, the least I can do as a public figure is show positivity in my life. But you know what? Back then, I mean, right now people act like, everybody loves Muhammad Ali, but back then they didn't love him. He was just the perfect package, because He had the intelligence, he had the charisma, and then he had the athletic ability. So he had all of those things to be that activist, to be that spokesman for the entire people, for our entire people. And that's just an amazing thing. But if he was here today, in today's time, how do you think the people would receive him?
You know, you had started to say that he wasn't loved at all times.
That's right.
Before he had Parkinson's and he was speaking his mind, you know what I mean? They didn't love that, right? Once he was quiet and sick and no longer felt like he was a threat, then
they praised him.
Loving him. And I'm talking about, we always love him, our people.
Right.
Yes.
You know, I think that, I mean, if he was here right now, he'd be received the way he was received when he was before he passed. You know, he's a global icon. He's loved by so many. Anywhere I go, people have a Muhammad Ali story. And it really does amaze me how many people can stop me and not only say how much they love my father, but I met your father, or he shook my hand, or he picked me up when I was a baby. And I'm like, he loved people. That's all I remember growing up, being irritated that everywhere we went, and he had his black briefcase with his magic tricks and his pre-signed autographs, because
that's so crazy to me.
He had these Muslim pamphlets that he would sign, and he'd say, "No, I'm going to give these to people, and then maybe they'll read it," because he was still trying to convert people to Islam. You know, and I was like, okay, you know. And he also wrote slow because his Parkinson started coming on, and it wasn't just that. It was also, he hated to cut people off, so he wanted to at least be able to give them a signed autograph if he didn't have time to do the whole line. And he would just sit there and call people like over to him, and we'd be like, "Oh Lord, we're gonna be stuck here for like 3 hours." and you know, that was my life, sharing my dad. I grew up in a mansion. I grew up in a 13,000 square foot mansion behind a private gate, and our home was literally a public face. Like every day, you can imagine, it wasn't like my home here where my kids are in the other room and mom and dad are home is quiet. No. We had guests. I mean, Michael Jackson, Prince, you know, Lou Rawls lived in the neighborhood, if anyone even knows who that is. Stevie Wonder. Anyone that you could think of was coming to the house, visiting. That was just an everyday, and not only just celebrities, regular people. Like Muhammad so-and-so's at the gate. Let him in. You know, he's just letting people in and just entertaining all the time. So it wasn't fun for me as a child, you know, but it just speaks to how much he loved people, you know. Yes. And yeah, he really was the greatest.
You think you're acting out because you said you went to juvenile hall, you know, you got locked up for some time. You think your acting out was trying to get his attention?
No, I got my dad's attention in a lot of ways over the years, trust and believe. And you know, like I was the one, when I was 8 or 9 years old, I told my dad I didn't want to be Muslim. And here's his young baby girl, and he's like, after everything he went through, imagine you guys have children. Imagine you like you
gonna be Muslim? I'm gonna shake the Muslim into you.
And I was like, I don't want to be Muslim. And he was like, you're not old enough to know what you want. And I said, I know what's in my heart. And he was just like,
wow.
And he was just like, oh damn, this one's just like me, you know. So from there on, you know, everything I did that didn't turn out right is because I wasn't Muslim. It's like because you chose not to be Muslim. So we always were at odds with that. Like, and most people would think I'm the closest to my dad, and I'm absolutely not. I was the least close. Well,
wow.
I wouldn't say, but I would say maybe number 7. You know, my sister Hannah, who is my only full sister, where we have the same mom and dad. Yeah. She was his number 1. You know, that was his girl. You know, wow. She was daddy's girl, not me at all. So,
you know, Laila, I want to touch on something.
Were you jealous though? I'm sorry, Ak. Were you jealous?
That was good.
You know, it's funny. I'm not, because I like me and my dad. Like I said, we're so different. We're alike in a lot of ways. We're different in a lot of ways. I was more like mommy's girl. But then I was mad at my mom because my mom abandoned me, you know, when she got remarried, and that's where the anger came from. That's where, you know. Wow. But Hannah, I was fine with. I didn't want to be around daddy, because being around daddy meant I had to be around all those other people as well, you know.
Wow. Laila, really quick before you go, you know, there's so many, I guess, activists that do touch on some heartfelt stuff, but I think our people can be helped in so many ways. And there's one avenue that I don't think gets touched on enough. And I want to ask you about it, because you've always been vocal about health, right? And not eating processed food, and in our communities, being, I would say, infested with fast food and liquor stores and so on, right? How important is it for some of our leaders to actually have campaigns about that, about teaching our community how important it is changing the culture around us when it comes to healthy eating, exercise and working out, and not eating whatever's put in your neighborhood?
Oh my God, that is like the number one thing on my mind, as you mentioned, because when we talk about what's killing us, okay, that's the number one thing. It's not police brutality, it's not just killing each other, which those things are bad as well. It's the food that we eat, it's our lifestyle choices, and it's heart disease, diabetes, obesity. Like heart disease is the number one killer, the number one. And so many of us have diabetes to the point where it's like, oh, you just get diabetes when you get older. No, you don't have to. Oh, it just runs in my family. We have all these excuses.
Right.
And people just think, oh, it's just salt. No, it's the sugar, it's the salt, it's the processed food. It's this, you're putting all this stuff in our bodies that's not even food. It's like chemicals. And it's meant to be that way. It's meant to make you sick. So it's like, I've done research and I've heard them say before, I've heard certain people say, hey, we do a really good job with the food and the GMOs, we can reduce the population.
Wow.
So, like, okay, there has to be a way to keep things in order, and we are eating it, we're making a choice, and we're just killing ourselves. So I think that we definitely have to make sure that we invest in our health, right? Like, just for example, just real quick on my spice blends, for example, you think of my spice blends, a container of spice, everything costs more when it's organic. It's just because they charge the organic farmers more and all this stuff, which you think it'd be less without all the chemicals and pesticides.
Right.
But it's more because they pay more to deter, I don't want to get into that. But anyway, $10.99 for a container of spice, right? It might last you 3 months, depending on how much you cook. People complain about that, but then they'll go to Starbucks and spend $6.99 on 1 cup of coffee. You know what I mean?
Right.
It comes down to, what do you value? You know what I mean?
With
like
tons of sugar and calories and all type of unhealthy stuff with 1 cup.
all chemicals. So it's just like, we'll go buy a Gucci belt and spend $450. You know what I mean?
Right.
But we don't want to go spend on some quality food. So you're either gonna pay now or you're gonna pay later, because if you when in healthcare bills and reduced quality of life. I'm always trying to encourage folks, especially our folks, to eat better, do better.
All right, dropping some jewels for us for Black History Month. People need to be inspired from that. Look, Laila, it's always a pleasure chopping it up with you. Always dropping jewels. Thanks for taking the time.
All love. See you guys next time.
All right, take care.
Introducing the new DAZN Boxing Show podcast. No matter the time or the place, getting your boxing content has become easier than ever. Tune in as we give you exclusive insights, predictions, fight night recaps, and more alongside the biggest names in the game. All for free. Available globally every Thursday across all audio streaming platforms, and with new episodes dropping weekly to give you the latest news. Just type in the DAZN Boxing Show podcast, listen in, and enjoy.